So I'm here with John Correia.
Hey,
They pronounce your last name right?
Korea, just like the country.
Correia. John Correia from Active Self-Protection. With over 100,000 followers now on Facebook. 108,000, I think, last time.
109 something
109.
today.
Wow. Okay, fantastic. And I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm going to be asking John some questions about himself and about Israel.
Yay!
Okay. So, John, I want to know about you. Tell me about you, how you got into this. I'm really curious what got you started in self-defense and all that.
You know, I grew up shooting some with my grandpa, but not a lot. I wasn't really, I served in the U.S. Navy for 8 years, but you don't learn how to defend yourself in the Navy. When it comes to hand-to-hand combat in the Navy, you got big problems. I got into self-defense. We homeschooled my wife and I when my kids were little, and so we had my son in martial arts just as an extracurricular activity for him while I was going to seminary, while I was in graduate school, and then I was running a video game store to pay the bills while I was going to grad school. And when the new generation of video game consoles came out, people were getting mugged for them. You know, there was stories of managers getting beat up, and I said, not me. So that's when I went. Actually, we're here at Shooters World in Phoenix. This is where I got my CCW way back when. Got my concealed carry permit, started carrying a gun. But really kind of, I don't know, for the first couple of years, that was more like a magic talisman. You know what I mean? I put it on to be safe, right? And then when I got out of seminary, James asked me to come and take martial arts with him. James is my son. Yeah, asked me to come take martial arts with him. So I thought I'd do it for a little while. Turns out I fell in love with it. And so I've been doing that for about 9 years now. And
what kind of martial arts do you do?
I study American Kempo.
Okay.
Or a derivative of American Kempo.
Kempo is with the stick?
No, we do both armed and unarmed. So it's primarily empty-handed combatives, but we do. You have to at the more advanced ranks pick a tool to focus on, and actually my tool of focus started as a stick. Now my tool of focus is a firearm.
Okay.
So I'm kind of within our school. I'm the gun guy. I'm who everybody goes to if they want to learn guns.
So your interest in it started with self-defense when you had the arcade, you said?
It was a video game store. So I sold Xboxes and PlayStations.
Okay.
You know, yeah.
Okay. And now you're a pastor of a church.
I am.
Here in Phoenix.
Pastor church in the Phoenix area.
Tell me a little bit about how your religious values, how they fit in with all the self-defense stuff and that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, I tell people all the time, you protect what you value, and that the most valuable thing that exists. There's only one thing in all of creation that's endowed with the image of God, and that's people. And so I want to protect that. So my ethic of self-defense comes from it, because it says I value people and I want to defend them. I tell this all the time, and we do catch some garbage from some people on active self-protection, because I said I never want to take another life if I don't absolutely have to. And even if I am, if I drive the gun out there and I have to take a life, my goal is to stop somebody from hurting me. Now, if they die in that process, that's on them, not on me. But I'm not glad or giddy or excited. It's the last thing I want to do. But probably one of my favorite passages in Scripture is Nehemiah. And in Nehemiah 4, when Sanballat and Tobiah were laughing at the people and they were scared, and it says Nehemiah looked at them and he saw the fear and he gathered them together. And Nehemiah 4:14 is one of my guiding verses. And he looks at him, he says, remember the Lord who is great and is awesome, and fight for your brothers, for your homes, for your wives, for your children. And that gave him the courage. Then it says from that day forward, they worked with a sword in one hand and a trowel in the other. And the men worked with their swords on their side, and they took turns standing watch. And they didn't have those swords to chop the meat at the end of the day. They were to protect them from bad guys.
Interesting. Obviously, we come from different faith traditions, but I'm also a religious person. And when talking to people in Israel about the security concerns there, and there are a lot of people that I talk to, religious people, rabbis, and other people who are religious, whether they're rabbis or not, have said, you know what, it's not our concern. It's like, God is in control, God runs the world, and we don't necessarily need to make ourselves crazy with trying to, whether it's, learning self-defense or hiring an armed guard for our synagogue, or, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, we see throughout history, regardless of whether you're a Christian or if you're Jewish, I love some of what the Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership have done, JPFO, they're a great organization, that God uses means. He uses us. He uses people. And of course he's sovereign. So when tragedy happens, we mourn because I think he mourns. But we do what we can because he puts that in our hands, you know, and he holds us responsible for our choices. So my friends, especially my friends who are observant, you know, my friends who are Torah observant, I say, you know.
You have friends here in Phoenix?
Yeah.
Or? Oh yeah, I didn't know
who are
that.
observant. No, I'm not a ton, but you know, some. And I say, you know, God wants you to be obedient. Yeah, of course he does. But he wants you to protect life. He values all life. And so he calls you to be obedient in that, protecting life.
Right.
And so that to me is, of course, far beyond martial arts, far beyond firearms. That has implications for all of life. But to me, it's a mandate. And I think Jesus certainly had some things to say about it as well. So I take his words to heart. You know, he's the guy that I follow. So, you know, the radical rebel rabbi, we like to call him. But, you know, I get that. And in the Christian tradition, too, we do have pacifists and folks who would say, well, that's not what you should do. Me personally, I tell folks that if that's their conviction, then they should live out their convictions. Please don't put your conviction on me.
Yeah, I hear you.
That I'm trying to follow the book, too.
Right. I'll say one thing, and so I've been following your page on Facebook, Active Self-Protection on Facebook. You should follow it. And it's been fantastic. I've learned a tremendous amount. But one thing, and I feel like I've learned a lot. And as I mentioned to you, I carry a knife. I carry you know, little things that I'm allowed to carry in Israel. But one thing that I've noticed is I feel that I think my awareness is situational awareness is much better.
Good.
Transitional spaces I'm aware of. Keeping my head on a swivel. All these things I've learned from your page. But I feel like also though my anxiety level is naturally significantly higher because and I talk to my friends who are like, you know what, can't worry about that. And I kind of feel like in some ways I wonder if, I don't know if ignorance is bliss, but in some way just sort of saying, you know what, I'm not worried about it. They seem to be, they're obviously less prepared for an emergency or for a tragedy, God forbid. But on the other hand, I feel like they don't live their lives with all this constant, anxiety that something's about to happen. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage you not to live with anxiety. I don't live in anxiety that something might happen. Instead, what I do is I feel like preparedness lets me be less anxious. In fact, I don't have to worry about things. I'm aware. We're gonna walk out to the parking lot here, and I'm gonna be aware. Now, I'm not gonna be paranoid. I'm not gonna think, I'm not gonna go into my kung fu grips every time I turn a corner. But knowing that I have the attitude and the skills and the plan to take care of myself if a need arises, I don't have to be afraid of what comes. Also, I find in my daily interactions, my ability to take care of myself lets me be far more kind to people. I don't have to worry about somebody. Is this person going to hurt me? Am I worried about them? As a pastor, I deal with borderline personalities quite a bit and people on the fringes quite a bit, and I don't have to worry about it. I can think the best of people because I don't have to worry about my personal safety. So I don't live a paranoid life. I live an aware life. I live for what's going on around me. And to me, the cool part is that if you're aware, and I see that could be a problem way down there. Well, I don't have to go down there. I don't have to wait until it's right here in front of my face. Oh, no, now I got to do something about it. I can go, I'm just going to avoid that. Let's just go this way instead.
Sure.
And that just makes life a little better for me.
So knowledge is power.
Really is.
Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to people in Israel, some of the people who are going to be watching this video, people from my community, where we're not really allowed to carry arms as self-defense because of the gun control laws? And
first advice, fix that.
Okay.
Fix that with your elected officials.
Maybe we can elect someone. I have a feeling that's going to be a very tough thing to overturn. It's that deeply entrenched.
I got to tell you, it surprised me. My wife and I spent 2 weeks in Israel in 2012, and of all people, the Jewish people should know what the need for personal protection is. It's a dangerous place. We went on Temple Mount, and I got to tell you, I mean, you can't take a thing up on Temple Mount, of course. It's crazy, and I didn't feel safe at all. I felt very unsafe. Walking the old city, I mean, I tell folks all the time, standing on the Mount of Olives or on the Sea of Galilee, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. I'd come live with you if I could. But you gotta recognize, everyone else around you wants you dead. Why would you not defend yourself? So, there's my soapbox.
Okay, I hear you. And my wife's grandfather's buried on the Mount of Olives, and you can't go and visit the graves because you might lose your life. So my question for you is, what advice do you have for us? People who it says we can't get guns. What advice do you have for those of us in Israel who want to actually defend ourselves and protect ourselves, protect our children? What besides electing people who can maybe change those laws?
Our founding principle is I am the weapon, all else are just tools. So you are the one who's in charge of your self-defense. Of course, situational awareness will keep you out of more problems than you can shake a stick at. But having the ability to defend yourself doesn't require a particular force multiplier. So yeah, I mean,
By force multiplier, you mean?
Well, something that lets you do more damage than you can do with your hands and feet.
So, for example, a knife, a gun.
I mean, you've got a knife, a pepper spray, a taser, a Kubotan. I mean, whatever. I mean, I tell folks all the time. I mean, we talk about I keep this pen on me, and it's a pen. It's I pop the cap off and I write with it, but it also is a very effective force multiplier. But it has to be very, very close. So if I had to defend my life, would I choose to use this? Or would I choose to use a firearm? Well, if it was a deadly threat, I'd much rather use a firearm.
Sure.
Because it's more effective. It has a higher force multiplication. But this is not a useless tool. This can definitely do some things to help me if I'm properly trained with it. So the key to using a tool like this, or any tool, is proper training. So, I've been bugging you about this. You folks live in the land of Krav Maga. Now, I get it. Every IDF soldier gets basic Krav Maga. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about get some official training. Get some training from somebody who knows what they're doing. And it doesn't have to be Krav. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a Krav guy, right? I see value in some of what they do. I'm a Kempoist. But find something in your town that can help you. And empty-handed skills are fantastic. I'll tell you, again, I've never had to use a firearm to defend myself. I've used my pepper spray twice.
Do you think people should carry pepper spray?
Yes.
You say the average citizen, or
yes?
So average men and women living in Israel think everyone should have pepper spray.
Every single person, every chance you can, everywhere you go with it. And I think that's wise because, again, as a situation comes up, you're in a cafe, and, you're sitting and enjoying a cappuccino, and somebody gets ugly with you. Well, that can defuse the situation. You pop somebody with the pepper spray, and they're done fighting you. It's miserable.
Right.
I mean, it's not going to do you any good if somebody comes in trying to stab you with a knife.
Right.